We will never be able to understand why Louise Porton murdered her children. She has lied repeatedly to family, friends and professionals to cover her tracks. At no point throughout the whole investigation has she showed any signs of emotion.
Welcome back, and thanks for being here. I'm Cassie, and this is A Wicked World. The story I have for you today is about a mother who was so evil that she killed both of her children, and not in the heat of the moment, but weeks apart. And the reason why is just insane. This is the story of Lexi Draper and Scarlett Vaughan. Little Lexi Draper was born to her mother, Louise Porton, who was just 18 years old at the time. The little girl's father was named Chris Draper, and he and Louise would go on to have a second child together a few years later, named Scarlett. But while Louise was still pregnant with Scarlett, she and Chris broke up. The mother then moved from Willenhall to Rugby, UK, about an hour away. Here she began living with her new boyfriend, whom she lied to, and told him that he was actually Scarlett's father. But this relationship would soon fail as well. Louise had also cut Chris completely out of his daughter's lives, and he never even got to meet his youngest, Scarlett. The mother and her two children soon began living in a council housing flat located on Park Road in Rugby. Louise was a struggling single mom, but she received a lot of help caring for the girls from her parents and sister. She worked part-time as a model on multiple networking sites, including Purpleport, which is for freelance models. Louise went by the name Lollipop and specialized in erotic, cosplay, and glamour work. According to one of the ads that Louise posted, she's an easy person to get along with and reliable. She also stated that she was open to all types of photo shoots. The mother was on multiple dating apps too, and would have sex with men for money. One time, she even left her apartment with the girls sleeping there by themselves so she could go have sex with a man in his car. Another time, she allowed a man to have sex with her in the bed that was directly next to the bed where her daughters were sleeping. She just told him they needed to try to be quiet. Then there was one time that Louise said to a client, "Tell me how much you put in and I will do pictures. If you put enough in, we can meet up and I will F you." On January 2nd, 2018, 3-year-old Lexi was rushed to the emergency room after her mother said that she was struggling to breathe. Once the little girl was examined, however, doctors determined that she had a chest infection, so she was given antibiotics and sent home. But just 2 days later, emergency responders were called to Louise's apartment, and they would find Lexi lying on her back on the floor, having difficulties breathing. Luckily, they were able to save her life. Oddly, though, her mother did not seem to be that concerned, and she told paramedics that the girl had recently been having seizures. Lexi was subsequently brought to the hospital, where it was determined that she still just had a chest cold, and shortly after, she was sent home. But just days later, on January 15th, 2018, Louise called emergency services again to report that her 3-year-old daughter was not breathing.
Ambulance service, is the patient breathing?
No.
They're not breathing?
No.
Okay. And who was it we're talking about?
Lexi, she's 3.
She's 3? Bear with
Yeah.
me. Okay. So she's unconscious and she's not breathing. So help has been arranged, okay?
When paramedics arrived just 9 minutes later, they found Lexi lying on the floor of the bedroom in the noticeably cold apartment. Her skin was pale and her lips were blue. It seemed like she had been dead for some time before paramedics arrived, because they also noted that rigor mortis had already started to set in her jaw. Louise told first responders that she had given her daughter a bath and put her to bed, only to later find her unresponsive. She then cried briefly for less than a minute before exiting the room. Following Lexi's death, an SUDC, or Sudden Unexplained Death in Childhood investigation, was opened. This is mandatory in the UK when someone under the age of 18 unexpectedly dies. And in the meantime, Louise and Scarlett were placed into a nearby hotel. But since no readily apparent cause of death could be determined for Lexi, her body was returned to her mother so she could prepare for her funeral. The thing is, Louise did not seem upset at all. Just one day after the tragedy, on January 16th, she would accept 41 friend requests on the dating app Meet Me, and was also messaging multiple men on another app called Badoo. Louise chatted with one individual about her leg tattoo, before then telling him, "My little girl passed away yesterday." When he gave her his condolences, she replied back with, "It's all right." She also arranged a date with another man that very same night. And just days after Lexi died, she was heard laughing on a FaceTime call with a man while she was at the funeral parlor. In CCTV footage taken at Louise's apartment just hours before emergency services had been called, you can see her with Lexi and Scarlett, and everything and everyone appears to be completely fine. A few weeks later, on January 31st, a social worker went over to Louise's apartment to check on things, and according to her, everything seemed good. 17-month-old Scarlett appeared happy and healthy. But just one day later, tragedy would strike yet again. On February 1st, 2018, Louise called 111, the non-emergency medical hotline, to report that her daughter Scarlett was unwell. Just prior to this, the mother had been captured on CCTV driving all around Rugby and was spotted on Barbie Road, Dunchurch Road, and Russellheim Way. During this time, Louise was also seen stopping at a gas station where she filled up her car. She then continued driving for a bit before pulling into the parking lot of Elliott's Field Retail Park, where she placed the call. She told the operator of the non-emergency phone line that she was in the car with her daughter in the back seat, and she couldn't wake her. When she was asked if Scarlett was breathing, she said no, yet she hadn't found the situation urgent enough to call the emergency phone number. When paramedics arrived on the scene shortly after, they found that 17-month-old Scarlett was already dead, and appeared that she had been for quite some time. Her skin was freezing cold, and she was lifeless. When Louise was asked what had happened, she said that Scarlett had been diagnosed with the flu, and that her other daughter had just died of the same thing weeks prior. Yet the mother, once again, appeared to be emotionless. Doctors couldn't find any natural reason as to why either of Louise's children had died. There had also been CCTV captured at the hotel where the mother and Scarlett were staying, just earlier that same day, and in it, the little girl looked just fine. Even though Louise was appearing highly suspicious to many others, her own mother, Sharon, was supporting her still. That's until March 11th, when Sharon posted to social media saying, "I really miss you so effing much, but being called a liar hurts me more than my own daughter punching me last night and knocking me on the floor. Then telling me I'm no mother of hers. Thanks, Lou. And all I've done since my grandkids passed is stick up for you, so thanks for hitting me." A second post stated, "I have always been there for you, and never ever said a bad word about you, so thanks for the punch to my head last night. Sticking up for you, but no more. You've really hurt your own mother, so thanks, Lou." Now, even though Sharon makes the claim of always being there for her daughter, it's said that the two did not have a very good relationship. This was mostly due to the fact that Louise felt rather scorned by her mother, who had left her when she was young to go be with another man. She had then refused to have a relationship with her mother going forward. This had caused a lot of anger to build up inside Louise, and according to her cousins and siblings, she would try to attack them when they were younger, but would do it in a way so that the adults around them didn't notice. She was very sneaky about it. Louise's grandmother, Joy, would say that she noticed after her granddaughter visited, things would go missing, When she confronted Louise about this, she just got angry and told her that she would never visit her again if she accused her of stealing. Much of Louise's family would say that she drank heavily, used drugs, and had developed a sex addiction. She was the black sheep, and many of her relatives had cut her out of their lives, since all she ever did was use them. Over a month after Lexi's death, on March 20th, 2018, Louise Porter was arrested on suspicion of murder in regards to both of her daughters. The girls' autopsies revealed that they had died as a result of airway obstruction, likely suffocation. Additionally, both Lexi and Scarlett were found to have older injuries like they had previously been assaulted. Little Scarlett had bleeding in her neck tissue that suggested significant pressure had been applied to her airway. Authorities believed that the mother had killed Scarlett hours earlier in the hotel room, then carried her down to the car and proceeded to drive around with her lifeless body in the back seat. This theory was later supported by a small amount of blood that was found on a pillow in the hotel room where they'd been staying. Louise was still denying killing her children, however, saying she had no idea how they had died. And for some reason, she would be released from police custody as they continued to investigate Lexi and Scarlett's deaths. So just 8 days after her arrest, Louise was back on social media and she changed her profile picture on Facebook, then captioned it with #smile, #fuckthehaters. A few months later, in June, she attempted to sell several trash bags full of Lexi and Scarlett's clothing on Facebook Marketplace for just £20. And in November of 2018, since Louise was still not in jail for some reason, she posted a couple of pictures of her daughters on social media and wrote, "Mommy's angels, taken from me too soon. You will never be forgotten. R.I.P." Now come to find out, when Lexi had first been admitted to the hospital, her symptoms were consistent with deliberate airway obstruction, rather than the chest infection that doctors had diagnosed her with. While her daughter was being treated in the hospital on that occasion, Louise had gone to the bathroom to take several sexually suggestive photos of herself, and she sent them over to multiple men. She also told another man that he could pay her £300 during a photo shoot, and in exchange, he could do whatever he wanted to her. Additionally, the mother sent over 80 text messages to a security guard whose number she had gotten while in the emergency room. And just hours after Scarlett had died, Louise went on her Snapchat, posting a photo of both of her daughters with the caption "R.I.P." Not something you would be thinking of doing after one of your children just died. As police continued to investigate Louise, they spoke with those who knew her and her daughters. One person they spoke with was her former landlady, Leanne, who said that she would do anything to avoid having to care for her own children. In fact, Leanne often babysat the girls and said that she saw them more than their own mother did. According to her, when Louise rarely did have them, she would become easily frustrated with her daughters. When they cried, she would tell them to shut the F up, or she would give them something to cry about. There was also a time where she had pulled Lexi by the arm up off the floor while she was having a temper tantrum and told her to get the F off the floor. It was a common occurrence for Louise to just completely ignore her daughters so that she could talk to men. Additionally, she would leave Scarlett and Lexi with her own father so that she could go out drinking and partying all the time. Louise's mother, Sharon, and the girl's father, Chris, were said to have reported her poor parenting skills to social services on numerous occasions, but nothing was done. Come to find out, just one day before Lexi died, Louise had sent a message to a man saying that she was having a difficult time with her 3-year-old because she had the deadly flu. She claimed that doctors told her she was going to die, but the thing is, no doctor had ever said that to her. She had also sent numerous messages to various other people, saying that she was worried she was going to lose Scarlett too. But at that point, there seemed to be no reason for her to worry about anything like that. Just hours before Scarlett's death, Louise had messaged a man on WhatsApp and asked him if he could put £30 in her bank account right then and there, as she needed it for gas to get Scarlett to the hospital because she wasn't well. She then said, I'm not losing another baby. To which the man replied, "Call the ambulance, don't waste time, hun, XX." Louise then said back to him in a series of 3 messages, "I've called, told me make my way. Can you or not? Please, you'll get it back." Just days after Lexi had been discharged from the hospital with the diagnosis of a chest infection, there were multiple disturbing Google searches made from Louise's phone. These included, man takes his own life by supergluing his mouth shut? Can you actually die if you have a blocked nose and forcibly closed mouth with tape? How long after drowning can someone be resuscitated? And why did my 3-year-old stop breathing? Louise also went on several websites where she read articles about 5 weird things that happen after you die, and child revived almost 2 hours after drowning, but how? And just hours before Louise had called emergency services for Lexi, she looked up, how long for a body to go cold up to the shoulder? Yet she still continued to claim that she had nothing to do with either of her daughter's deaths. Police, on the other hand, said it was clear from all the evidence that they had gathered that Louise had previously tried to kill Lexi twice prior to succeeding. But it wouldn't be until a year after Lexi had died, in January of 2019, that Louise was finally charged with murder. When she appeared in court, she read a prepared statement that said, "It is correct that life as a single mother was financially difficult, but I never asked anyone for money, and any suggestion that I used my daughter's ill health or death to make any money is wholly inaccurate and wrong." When Louise Porton went to trial a few months later in July of 2019, she was still denying having anything to do with either Lexi or Scarlett's deaths. According to her, the girls always made her laugh, and she loved them very much. She claimed that while parenting wasn't the easiest thing to do, she coped. She said her daughters always gave her something to do. She was always taking them places, like to play parks, and she always tried to give them everything they wanted. But the evidence against her was overwhelming, and prosecutors believed that the girls had been in the way of Louise's sex life. So she felt that she had to get rid of them. A paramedic who first tended to Lexi on January 4th and was later called back to the apartment a few days later, said that when he arrived, Louise had a glass of wine in her hand and seemed rather pleased to see him, saying, "That's the paramedic who looked after my Lexi before she died." Witnesses said that the mother acted like someone who had lost her goldfish rather than her 2 children, and when she was asked what she wanted to do with the girls' belongings, she had just yawned. While Louise would tell the court that she found it difficult to express her emotions and form emotional attachments, she wasn't found to be suffering from any type of mental illness. And at the end of a 5-week trial, Louise Porton was found unanimously guilty on 2 counts of murder. She was then sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 32 years before she's eligible for release. The judge described the mother's actions as evil and calculated and said that she was sure that Louise was responsible for the events leading up to Lexi's initial hospitalization and paramedics showing up at the home days later. She also said that Louise had only called emergency services when she was sure that her daughters were dead and could no longer be resuscitated. The children's father, Chris Draper, who was said to have continually tried to reunite with his daughters, fighting for both custody and visitation rights, would have a victim impact statement read aloud for him, and he said, "Why did Louise do something so evil to our beautiful daughters? You are their mother, the person supposed to care for them, protect, and love them. They were just an inconvenience to you. How could you do this? Maybe if social services had listened to me, they'd still be alive today. I sit and think day and night and can't understand why my 2 little girls were taken away from me because Louise wanted to sleep around. I hate Louise. No punishments will ever be enough. Only having a short time with Lexi and never meeting Scarlett makes it all the more heartbreaking. We will miss out on all those special occasions they would have celebrated. Their first day of school, birthdays, getting married, having children of their own. The only comfort is that Lexi and Scarlett are together." Louise is currently being held at HM Prison Foston Hall, and she will be eligible for parole in January of 2051. It's said that while she's been serving her time, she's been verbally mistreated and spat at. However, she was also at one point bought 3 Christmas prison meals because apparently, and disgustingly, she has fans. Louise's own mother, Sharon, would speak publicly, and she said that something in her daughter's head had just snapped. Something with her changed. She became a monster. She was not the happy, loving little girl that she had once brought up, and she no longer considered her daughter. Though, from the sounds of it, she didn't really bring her up, so I'm not sure how well she really did know her. Sharon also said, "I can't believe that social services didn't do more. They have blood on their hands. They could have done so much more." Louise didn't care about Lexi's death. She didn't give a damn. There should be an inquiry as to why they didn't do more. Who has made the decision that everything was all right with Louise's family and they could be left alone? Scarlett needed to be taken away for her own safety. Then in February of 2020, 48-year-old Sharon died after she took her own life. A funeral for Lexi and Scarlett was finally held for them by their father in September of 2019. It took place in Warsaw, and the girls' coffins were led to the cemetery by a white horse-drawn carriage. After the funeral, Chris Draper posted to his public Facebook page and said, "My girls are home now. Today your family lay you to rest, even though you shouldn't be there, but you're daddy's babies. Sent you away in style, gave you the send-off you deserved, all eyes on you, and you'll be missed but never forgotten. Sleep tight, babies. Daddy got you. Daddy will always have your back. Sleep tight. Love your daddy." Well, thank you for listening to Lexi and Scarlett's story today. Louise has to be one of the most evil mothers that I have ever heard of. She tried to kill Lexi multiple times before she finally succeeded. And she learned from her mistake of calling for an ambulance too soon because they were able to revive the little girl. So the final time, and when killing Scarlett, she instead waited hours. Then she showed no sorrow or remorse and even tried to erase the memory of her daughters by selling off their belongings. How do you feel about this one? If you like true crime and you want to hear it from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. And turn on your notifications too, so you'll know when I upload a new video, which is at least 3 times every single week. Thanks for watching A Wicked World today. Until next time, take care. Bye. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon, so check it out on patreon.com/awickedworld, or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims are never forgotten, and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a story you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email to awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.